Hello, this is Noel from Freshman Bio 2021. This is for Mr. Carbajal's first period class, and this is a documentary for a selected animal that we have provided. And I'll be telling you about the Adelie Penguin today. Let's get started. Hello, this is my Biology Period 1 presentation, and today I will be talking about the Adelie Penguin. Their scientific name is Cygocellus adeliae, and these penguins are in the order Sasoni forms. This is Sasoni ending in two I's and forms ending in ES. These penguins normally eat smaller fish, krill, shrimp, and smaller marine life. And a noticeable feature about penguins is instead of being a flyer, which is most birds, they're actually really good at swimming. And this is for reasons which I will explain later into the video. A penguin is a bird, and a bird has many common attributes. And some of them don't appear in penguins, which is actually the reason why they cannot fly. First of all, a common feature is their feathers. All birds have feathers, and there are three types of feathers. There are down feathers, contour feathers, and flight feathers. Down feathers are found on younger birds. They're not really used for flight or decoration, they're just very fluffy. They're also used for insulation against heat loss. Next is contour feathers. These feathers are a more streamlined shape. They are more colored in compared to down feathers, and they're also used for insulation against heat. Next is flight feathers. Flight feathers can be found on the wings and tail, and they're said to be modified versions of contour feathers. And each of these feathers, they each have a shaft, and out of these shafts are barbs, and out of these barbs are barbules. And also to mention that these shafts, they're hollow. Moving on. These barbs connect to the other barbs on the adjacent barbules over here. And then this helps prevent any air flowing through the feathers so they could fly easier. And next is their skeleton. Their skeleton is very thin and hollow, such as the shaft. And it's so brittle that they have air sacs attached to their lungs, and which I will mention, and they could actually pierce through these bones. So with each breath a bird takes and fills up their air sacs, they could possibly pierce one of their bones. And moving on to their respiratory system, I have mentioned that they have air sacs attached to their lungs, and this is because they have a really high metabolism and need a lot of oxygen for flying. Another noticeable feature, which basically defines all of birds, is that they have a beak. And for this beak, they don't have any teeth, and this is mainly for eating or picking up sticks so they can make their nest. And there is a hypothesis to how birds learned to fly, and it's that they were always jumping branch to branch, and they eventually learned how to glide while going for their prey and the ability to fly. Or there's another hypothesis that they use their wings to glide down and stabilize themselves when going for prey. And this brings up the question that the birds, how do they lack teeth? And this is probably because they ate on smaller foods, and for their body build, they are very thin and brittle, and yeah, they just can't eat any larger animals unless it's a bigger bird. But penguins can't fly. Why is that? Well, that's because their bones aren't hollow. It's said to help them when they're diving for fish, and they have teeth. Well, not really teeth. They look like this. Looks like something coming out straight from a horror film. But these things I will mention later. And I chose the Adelie Penguin mostly because they are featured in Happy Feet, and they look extremely classy. As I have mentioned from a previous slide, is that they have these extremely scary teeth-like structures. And these teeth-like structures are actually papillae. This exists in nearly all organisms. It's on their tongues, and it's also on our tongues, believe it or not. But it's just mostly expressed on penguins. And the usage for these papillae is that they grab food, and as you can see, they're pointed towards, well, what would be the penguin's stomach or throat. And if they catch a fish, the fish would be lying right there, and the fish would still be alive. They don't have any cooked fish, unfortunately, and it can't get out because these are hooked onto it. So the only way it could go is in. And that's what I found really unique about penguins. And also, if I had mentioned it before, is that penguins actually do not have hollow bones, and it is said to help them while diving for food. And the Adelie penguin. The Adelie penguin could live up to 11 to 20 years in the wild, and they are not really social. They're more of a selfish nature, and they're mostly hunted by large seabirds because these seabirds are always hunting the eggs and their newborns because they're smaller. They are hunted by leopard seals, which is a common predator, and an apex predator, which is the orca. This is a 3D model of the Adelie penguin, or any penguin, in fact. You can't really tell from this. And as you can see, it has the normal structures as from a previous slide over here, like that. And I just find it pretty interesting that on a penguin, as you can see here, it actually has a really short neck. And it's actually quite the opposite. Its neck is just really elongated. And that's because the meat, well, not really meat, but the flesh, the body, is kind of covering that. And then, yeah, they also have these fins, which also help them. And keep in mind, these bones are also fused like other birds. Not all of them are fused, but most of them are fused together, making it a rigid structure. And yeah. Also, Adelie penguins are featured in Happy Feet. Unfortunately, in Mr. Popper's penguins, they are not featured. These are different kind of penguins. And this is basically what inspired me to do this. Never give up the dream. I'll be reviewing some penguin footage, and I'll be telling you some facts along the way, such as how far they could go, how deep they could go, how long they could go hunting. And yeah. So this is just a common Adelie penguin. Of course, this is in Antarctica. And fun fact, they're pinkish is because they eat a lot of shrimp and krill. And it is a rumor that their poop, whenever they eat so many krill and so many shrimp, it becomes a brightish pink, and that you could see it from space. And in this part, you could see them diving. And these Adelie penguins could actually go up to 185 miles outwards in a round trip, and they could dive up to 575 feet. And these dives normally happen within 3 minutes, unless you're like a very special penguin. And when they're migrating, it is actually said that when they migrate, there has been a migration that has been reported up to 17,000 kilometers. So these penguins, they aren't kidding. They are really far going, almost like an overdoer. And this will conclude the rest of my presentation. I will leave about like 20 seconds of penguin footage in silence. Oh, also, these groups are called colonies. That's what the group of penguins are called.